All I had to do was press a button. Today, I guess I have to reauthorize with Google stream out to YouTube. Good morning, everybody. I'm Scott Stimson.
Half your body.
What's that, Chester?
We can only see half of your body.
I don't know what that means.
That's better.
Yeah, Chester, you remember I broadcast a couple of different what would you call it? Different formats, so that I can bring you guys into the same view. And if you what's it called? If you hit this thumbnail on mine, it will full screen it, pin me. And then you'll see all these different views. They won't be trying to make space in your meet session. They'll just be broadcasted through my video, if you want to do it that way. But that may be accounting for why you're seeing half sometimes. If I'm a window, like if you're looking at me right now, I'm broadcasting the 3 windows and then a window of me. And that might be scattered in your meet windows and format string. Whereas this is just the full me, which would capture correctly. So we're happy to have Dave with us. This is San Carlos Computer Club. I'm Scott from Alaska, Anchorage Walkabout Town Bed and Breakfast, and International Computer Solutions. I'm here getting our bed and breakfast together, doing our thing. And if you're coming to Alaska, get a hold of me, because I will give you a discount as long as we've got room. We've had a pretty exciting summer so far. We've had very good bookings compared to last season. And so if anybody's interested, we're happy Dave's with us. It's been a while since Dave's been here. He's brought some Android phone topics with him. I have sent out a regular document of possible topics. I'll just drop that out here in case anyone doesn't have it easily available. Looks like somebody's trying to get in with. Oh, it's Mom. Hello. I am just dropping the link. There she is. There's Mom.
Do you like the...
Go ahead.
Notice Scott washed windows yesterday.
I can only claim responsibility for getting it done. It was not my elbow grease, but it was my authority that got it done.
That's right.
Well, we are just getting started, and typically at this time, we're looking for topics from you guys, things that I'm interested in hearing what you're dealing with. And Dave has put himself at the front of the line, and so I'm going to let him tell us what interesting new things he's done with an Android phone or learned about Android. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, it all started on Friday. It was an interesting day. I've been ignoring the message from Samsung a little bit about my phone that they were going to quit supporting Message app on June 1st. So I figured, okay, I really ought to, break down and switch to Google, which I hate, to do so.
Is this the Samsung SMS messenger you're talking about?
Right.
Okay.
So I go try to install the Google, and I think I accidentally clicked on the wrong message thing because they don't tell you in the Play Store really the name of the company doing it. They try to confuse you deliberately so you do the wrong products. Well, coupled with this on Friday, Samsung also downloaded a new user interface to my phone. So now when I boot up, everything is all haywire.
So this
course,
hey Dave, is this an OS update that Samsung's giving you?
It said just user interface,
Okay.
but it sure acts like, a very major change. For instance, on Samsung with the Android, you always swipe from side to side to go between the different app screens. No longer, you just scroll up and down type thing, totally different. So anyway, to do the install of the messages, first, of course, I'm always making lots of mistakes, so I lock my home screen. So I have to go in, I unlock it. Well, the way you unlock a home screen on Android is a long press on anywhere blank on the home screen. And up comes a special menu that I've never seen in the settings menu that allows you to unlock it if you want apps included. So I unlock it, I download this new thing, I lock it again, and lo and behold, it switches to having 2 bars on the bottom, nothing else. Nothing works except those few apps. I can't get to the apps or anything.
No.
So, major challenge. So I tried looking for a few things and I quickly get discouraged saying, I don't really know enough to solve this. And from my background at IBM, I know it's best if you see something like this to do absolutely nothing and go to an expert. Quit trying to even research it a lot of times. You're better off, if a power off, power on doesn't solve it with phones and PCs these days, not mainframes, then get somebody good.
Okay, folks, I didn't put Dave up to that, but he must be talking about me, right?
Nah, well, could be, but I didn't give you a call because you were too hard to look at my phone and make lots of changes. So what I wind up doing is call my good old Mexican buddy who says, well, I knew this. He had recent surgery. So he says, how about Monday we go to the good cell phone guy in Guaymas? Well, the good cell phone guys in Guaymas are basically located where I call the old big Lays in the shopping mall. Go to that intersection, take a right, go about 2 blocks down, and there's 2 or 3 stores on the left. And so I tell the guy my problem. He basically spends an hour and a half trying to solve it. His fee for this was 100 pesos. I thought ridiculously low. I gave him 200 just for everything. But he basically, in the process of doing it, Samsung even came up with another update to the user interface while he was trying to do stuff. So obviously they had found bugs that quickly that between Friday and Monday, they'd come up with another update. And so what it proved to be is a combination of the user interface switching how you had to unlock the phone that was no longer available to get out of the main screen, combined with the user interface challenge, combined with a virus, all hitting at the same time, doing everything.
Oh, I actually got infected with a virus?
And it got infected, which came from loading the wrong Messages app rather than really the Google one.
Ah, okay.
They try to fake you out.
Ah.
So first step in fixing it, which I knew, but the technician didn't. Are you aware of the Android app background apps and services?
Yes.
Okay, for most people, a lot of people don't know about it, but basically in Android, if you once start an app, it runs partially in the background forever until you cancel it somehow.
Yeah, I mean, you need to kill the process or stop it. It depends on what interface, what's been provided by your device manufacturer as your interface. Like, it looks completely different under a Fire Stick than it does under a phone, but it's this.
But it's so true, and people ought to really run that every, I think, 3 months or so, and just clean up all the crud that you forgot you tried once and never used again. So that at least eliminated some choices like, oh, okay, it's not certain problems. That was. And then it became the real challenge is to get it to unlock. So once you got the unlock, then you could fix the let's say virus to get everything all back. But it was really an interesting challenge.
Well, and you're left now with a new interface software, and
Yes,
and did you have
that's
to lay out
totally new.
icons new as well, things like that? All that in the middle of dealing with trying to get your messenger changed?
Well, basically, yes. The main change is the way you look at everything on the user interface. So
What?
if you're used to swiping side to side, it's now rolling up and down. If you're used to, how to lock the screen, that's all different. So kind
Well,
of a major frustration.
while you're sharing this story, I did some Googles because I wasn't aware of the Samsung app being discontinued. And Samsung's has a page here that gives you the instructions and links to finding the correct app, how to get it set up.
However, those links don't exist on my phone because
Of the
they
virus.
did the user interface app at the same time.
Well, this
So
could
the
be
same-
brought up on your PC.
Yeah, I brought it up on my PC and saw the same thing, but the links they reference don't work.
So, and they have oh wow.
Yeah.
If you
That was the frustration is the combination of everything on the same day.
yeah, that's really, it sounds like a perfect storm of frustration.
And the real challenge to me is that the inconsistency of the websites. They don't have a date they were done, so you don't know what's current information or old information. The fact that the way they put apps on the Play Store, you really don't know who's behind the app in many situations. Some of them are very good, others are kind of just so-so. But it's more just the overall lack of standardization, which takes me back to my IBM days. IBM never discontinued basically the operating instructions. In other words, if you had a screen that worked this way, we will keep it. We don't like it. There's a better way that you can do, but we'll keep the old. Because when you switch to a new software or computer, businesses consider the cost of switching to be 85% the cost of the education of all their employees and how to use the device. So the cost of the hardware and software is nothing in comparison.
What you're describing sounds very similar to Microsoft's consumer model for years, until I think
Yes.
probably Windows 8. Windows 8 was the first time they really broke that model.
Mm-hmm.
And then they've just, ever since then, they've been having to go back to that kind of thinking. Don't let it change, make it the same. Give a dozen different ways to do the same thing because everybody does something different.
They do it somewhat, but they still change the verbiage so that you're not really sure if you've got, when you start reading, how do I do this, if it's the correct way or not.
Well, and then you've got the other extreme of this, which is like Apple, who like you made a good argument there for their app store, whether you were aware of it or not. That's one of the things that we've always appreciated, was the curation and concern for the apps that come into the app store. That's really what Apple tries to sell people, and people that are arguing against them having a closed ecosystem offer this kind of security. And when you open it up, you just can't. You can't vet who software.
Yeah, I have to agree totally. My wife hasn't got an Apple phone. I dislike it only because I'm not used to it. So it's
Well, and the irony of it is that because they've embraced a closed ecosystem, they've gained lots of market share and been able to control it, make lots of money off of what happens to the app store. It's caused consternation in the market, and consequently concern for it not being fair practice. So they've in Europe they've forcing Apple to open up the apps so that they can actually host. They're actually being required to host third-party app stores installed in the phone apps from. It's yeah, in some ways it's great because it opens up this platform. In other ways, it really highlights the security issue that is not. I mean, Android, Google with Android, they're trying very hard to give a good experience and vet the software more than they ever have before, and it's horrible. It's absolutely your experience. You go to look for the thing you need and you install a virus in your computer because there's a dozen things that are masquerading as the thing you need. You should be concerned about anything you touch, and it's the best it's ever been as far as curation and security control.
There's a huge philosophy difference, and part of the reason I stick with Android is my background. I tend to do everything myself on my own personal computer. And so I get frustrated that the Files app doesn't show me where everything is, and I could easily copy back and forth with all the stuff, which is what I will. That's against the protocol of what should be done. It's dangerous if you don't know what you're really doing.
I switched to an iPhone a number of years ago because I wanted a camera that would work when I pulled it out of my pocket. I was not having that experience under any of the Android. I was always able to rationalize why in that moment I wanted to take a photo and it didn't work. There was always a reason. I could see the apps running. I could see what got in the way. But the point was it got in the way and I didn't get the shot. I finally reached a point of frustration where 90% of the reason my phone's in my pocket is so I can take pictures. This is back when I had toddlers and my wife was dancing. And so I switched to iPhone and haven't gone back for simply the same reason. Every time I pull it out of my pocket, I can hit the picture button and it'll take a picture. The things that I give up, though, is, Dave, I'm very similar to you in the respect that I want to control my platform. I want to install my software. I don't want to have to connect to a cloud service if I don't have to. I really want to minimize the amount of tracking that's going on. I want to be the IT person of my experience, and the iPhone doesn't lend to that. It's this great piece of hardware, and I really get told all the time how to use it. I don't really get to choose how it's being. The Android platform in that respect is much more open, lends itself to developers. Even you could be developing your own app for it. And one of the frustrations with the latest versions of Google's Android is they really want to tighten up that supply chain of software. The most recent version of Android won't allow you to run software that doesn't have a developer's key that registers with Google Play Store. So whether you're giving the app away for free or not, whether the app is coming from a third-party app store or off a website, depending on how open you've made your device, you still won't be able to run that app unless the developer has a relationship with Google that can be tracked back. So that means that any developer, even a hobbyist just making the software for themselves, is going to have to pay some minimal license fee to Google so that Google can keep track of their app on the Android platform. I'm not certain whether that is the best solution, but it's definitely the best solution Google's come up with. And again, the only comparison is Apple's ecosystem. It is notoriously much more closed down, but it's the same style of thinking. I think that we're in a position where it's much easier to criticize. I don't know what the solution would be. I know what I don't like about the current situation, but I don't really know how you fix it. I think the Bill of Digital Rights that I preach all the time, I think that if we were to follow that kind of model, that kind of framework when we're making decisions about the way these products would work, then smart people would come up with ways that we could get safe applications, have them vetted without giving up privacy information or control over our device. In that kind of respect, one of the things that I brought with me is an article about how the Windows secure boot, I don't have it right. The UEFI certificates are expiring this year. And most people don't even know what this is. And most people probably won't be affected because Windows is updating these certificates in the background. I do have reason to believe that it is those updates that have been going on for the last year that are related to the update snafus that Windows has had recently. These certificates are things that get put into your firmware. They actually get put onto your motherboard of your physical device. And they're being distributed by specific operating systems. Unfortunately, Linux is right alongside this, has their own system for updating certificates. But these certificates really are making it so that it can be very difficult to install questionable software. That's the wrong way to say that. Let's say the positive of these certificates, they're updating. What this is the encryption between your hard drive and your motherboard. And it's those first few instructions that make it okay to start the software, the operating system. And if the operating system is questionable, the idea is that it doesn't have the encryption key that it needs to see in the hardware, so that it's a vetted system. And so it won't allow the computer to start up on that operating system. I guess the scenario might be you throw a USB drive or an external hard drive in the boot up sequence and then get access to the hard drive's internal data. You're using BitLocker. It should be encrypted. And to give that new operating system access to that other hard drive, it has to prove that it can be encrypted, or it can use the same encryption as the motherboard states. Hey, I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand it and generalize it at the same time, and I'm getting lost in it. But the idea is that the reason that they're vulnerable is because of these rootkit viruses. Rootkit virus is one that gets on your hard drive, gets into your system, and it shims itself between the operating system. So that when the operating system is running, it's always having to run through the rootkit. Being shimmed like that means that it interprets everything the operating system does, including its ability to find the rootkit. And so we're much better off never getting a rootkit installed in our computer than we are after the fact trying to find and remove them. And this secure boot is really part of that process, that system that makes it very difficult for a rootkit to embed itself in the device. However, there have been a number of compromises the current system and the certificate, and so this has been coming to update these certificates so that any of those compromises that exist will have to find a new certification to be able to get at this level in your computer. unfortunately, there are some computers that may have problems doing adding these certificates. I personally, after learning about how this affects things, can imagine a scenario where you have a computer in the closet with an old operating system. You have a computer that's a special use computer. Maybe it's running a DOS operating system. Essentially, none of these things are going to stop working. But what kind of cued me in on this and brought it up first is what Dave was talking about, these inconveniences of these how these updates shaped. You had these three things happening at the same time. You ended up having to search out help to get sorted out. This security certificate thing, if it doesn't get updated in your computer, you could find yourself not able to install a more modern operating. An example might be you got Windows 7 installed on this computer you pulled out of the shed, and now you can't install your legitimate version because you don't have the latest security certificates. And that's actually a horrible example now about it, because we would really be talking about Windows 12, which doesn't exist yet, or future versions of Linux that don't exist yet. Again, this is an interesting exercise in thought, but if everything goes the way it shouldn't even feel this happening. It's happening in the background, all, but it is the operating system getting closer to your hardware. The operating system you're running is determining how your hardware. Guess that's where that breaks.
You just reminded me, and maybe you can answer this. What's the status of ATMs that were running XP for many, many years after it was no longer supported with a special patch?
I don't have any personal information on it, but I would speculate that they're still running, just like the systems that they built for automotives. I think they've just patched them every time. Every time it's been an issue, they've patched them. NT was a great operating system. Windows 2000 was, but they weren't going to update those systems for us or even at a corporate level. But they kept that stuff running forever when it came to kiosk. I would suspect that what's happened now is that those ATMs, after years of in use, have been replaced and using the latest version of whatever operating system their bank decided was headed for. You can bet it's not Windows 11 after the fiasco in the marketplace. 11, nobody's moving. So I would imagine they're probably all Windows Vista, because that's what everything's based on. They're probably this kernel of Windows Vista, looking very similar to Windows 7, because it's basically without all the I can't pretty whole. Well, if you hear about this security issue from something other than me, which I doubt, because in this group I'm the kind of person. But if you do hear about it, this article actually answers some of the standard questions, like will my computer stop work? How it's getting installed. I kind of paraphrase that, guys. But in the nutshell, from everything I've read, there's nothing that we really need to do. We're not supposed to have to do anything. And the unfortunate thing is the way that software is distributed in this world, it might hiccup. And that's what I found, is that some of these big hiccups that happened over the last 6 months are related. Standard security advice, keep Windows fully up to date, check your status, check your BIOS if there's a BIOS up your computer. But it's hard to imagine there's anything that really, I mean, that's stuff that I would do. Hard to imagine you would have a computer that would be old enough or archaic enough, would be. Everybody in our group has, well, maybe with the exception of Dave, has a computer from a major manufacturer that's running its standard operating system with the update. There hasn't been a, as long as that particular device doesn't have a problem, update. Hoping everybody's hearing me okay. I just noticed a weird
I hear you fine.
Thank you, Chester. Well, you know, I came with a story that I wanted to share with you guys that I thought Chester would really relate to. I do not believe this is the same problem that Chester had with OneDrive, but it is a OneDrive story that would make you mad. Hi, Cheryl. Welcome.
Yeah.
Over the last week, I've been helping somebody get off of OneDrive. And what it becomes obvious right from the get-go is that if they had a computer with more space on it than when they first started using it, this would not be an issue. Problem exists because they're using OneDrive and they're using space saving, which is a general term for keep everything in the cloud except what I'm working. Space saving. And this is okay. This is a great way to work if you're in a subscription service. You're not planning on changing about that environment. You can get away with doing work on phones, and you can work on laptops and different powered devices that have different capacities. Space savings allows you to do that. Every device has a different setting. It has their own way of doing savings. Phone versus a tablet versus a laptop or a desktop, one of them is going to have cloud service like OneDrive. This option of space saving typically means that the data is in the cloud unless you need to use it. Then there'll be granular settings such as decide on your device for the 30 days. Space savings, 30 days. If you haven't used it, looked at it, opened it, all those things, haven't copied it, then it's going to make sure the latest version, the newest version of that data is stored in the cloud. Remove it from your device to save space. Very common stuff from cloud services that are syncing drives, and it allows us to use under capacity devices, storage out there on the internet. That's precisely what this person has done. Is they had a terabyte of space in the internet, and they had half a terabyte of space on the computer. They were using space saving, and so everything was up in the cloud except what they were currently working on. And then they coupled it with bringing stuff to the laptop locally, right there on their laptop hard drive, that wasn't intended to be synced up with OneDrive. So there's a large amount of space already being used up locally. And then, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. The goal is to get off of OneDrive. That was the goal of, to get all the files out of OneDrive onto her laptop. Could happen with a very simple procedure of put all the files, and I'm generalizing and paraphrasing. The language for this all exists, but this is essentially put all the files on my laptop, make sure every file on the laptop, every file that you see in the cloud exists on the laptop in its entirety, and then unlink from the cloud server. This is what we're trying to do. And it would happen if she had a larger hard drive, because she's exceeded the capacity of all that data in its entirety. It will not allow us to sync everything. Now,
Could she use an external hard drive?
well, this is where we ended up going, because after diagnosing how to deal with this, you can hook an external hard drive, but then what you need to do is unlink from the cloud services. This is, now I'm speaking specifically OneDrive. You have to link from OneDrive, disconnect for it's momentarily, and then you reconnect to OneDrive and you allow it to ask you, where do you want to store your OneDrive folder? Now, when you unlink from OneDrive, it leaves your old OneDrive folder in its original location. That is a folder of the files that we're working on most recently, or it's nothing, or it's stuff that accidentally got put in that file that never got synced. Fortunately, what I just described are all these different problems you could have had with OneDrive over the variety of changes they have made that very short period. I was dumbfounded by the number of corners I went around expecting to see the door to find a dead end and have to go around a different corner because of the variety of changes OneDrive service over just the last year. The menus you go through and indicators of what's happening, it's changed so quickly, such a short period of time. I can't help but blame some of the problems that we ran into on just having been using OneDrive for so long, living through the updates of the, and I'm very aware that there have been a number of changes in a short period. Most of them to keep getting out of OneDrive. And that was what was really frustrating about this, is that when we assigned OneDrive to this external drive, which has to be Windows NTFS drive or Windows' own set of criterias for security and permissions, can't do this on just any external hard drive. Not only does it have to have enough space, but you also have to have it formatted with. And so we were able to syncing everything. She didn't have a terabyte, but she had about 600 gigabytes. Took us a day on a really fast connection. She's getting downloads. She's got downloads at almost 200 megabits a second, but with Microsoft syncing OneDrive, it was topping out at 40. So with the Microsoft service, we weren't even able to take advantage of the whole speed that she was getting from her provider. It was actually like 1/5 the speed of her internet provider. That wasn't her connection. That was Microsoft services. So we waited a day to get all her files down to that external drive. Then we're supposed to be able to unlink and copy the place. And there was a number of, well, and actually I have gotten ahead of myself, because before we got to this point, that OneDrive folder I was talking about was not allowing us to move the files out of that folder in where they would originally disconnected from it. It was just a comedy of errors. And all I kept thinking, well, besides I was thinking about Chester though, but the all I was thinking was, this decision they made here makes you stuck in Microsoft. I mean, it really gets you locked into the hardware. And this decision right here really gets you locked into the cloud services, making it very complicated for you to just quickly move things around and make changes. And it just left me with a really bad taste in my mouth. There were a number of things that I felt like I should have just been able to pop off because of previous experience I was giving advice that was bad because it wasn't so simple and clear any. And then there was definitely a failure because when we unlinked from the OneDrive the original time, we should have just been left local. Instead, we were looking at all these file references, the cloud, and because those are in the folder, and this is the Microsoft system, when I went to do a backup of those files or move those files somewhere else, I would get flagged with a message saying, hey, you're not in your cloud system. You can't move those files. Whereas I have no interest in those files at all. I ended up having to do a number of file repairs, get those references out of the activities, IT activities too. Definitely left behind by accident. They should not have been there. If you look at the documentation, they should not have been there after we unlinked, but there they were. And I would attribute it to various changes drive over. If you're looking at getting out of OneDrive specifically, I would say what you're trying to do is get all your data over your side of things, off of the cloud over to your side. And one of the nice things, in fact, is you're not getting out of the cloud service quickly. You're not moving this stuff so it's no longer existing there. You're copying this stuff. You're bringing your backup to your device. Whereas you are also leaving that original copy back on your cloud service. So what that does do is it gives you a lot of leeway. You can make a lot of mistakes knowing that you still go back to the cloud drive, re-download that. And so what happens now is if you're worried about privacy, you go and delete files that are on the cloud drive. But at the very least, you need to cancel service. And it'll take like 30 days. It will no longer be available to. And then the only copy that would reside would be on your local device. And so this is the other piece of advice that I helped set up was do a local backup. Make sure that you're doing regular backup, local device. And so that's what I helped this person do. Get everything out of their OneDrive, get it onto their laptop, and then create backups for an external drive so that more than one copy of all that data.
I bet you have a happy customer.
Yeah. They're and actually it was all for naught because there was another thing they were trying to do, and we discovered it wasn't going to work for that computer. And I hate to say this, but if you're asking me for help, please let me know what your final goal is, because what I just described to you is a very clear goal. Get me off of OneDrive. And I'm like, well, we can do that. I'll do that. And then here we are a couple of days later after having resolved these issues. I find out the reason they went off OneDrive is because of this software that they want to run. They hadn't mentioned it to me at all throughout this experience. Well, it was very easy for me to go and do lookups on this piece of software and find the system requirements. And we didn't have to go through any of that because this computer's not going to work. I could have said that in the first 15 if I had known that's what they wanted to do. So please be very open with all your activities with your IT guy, or we could waste a lot of time for something that's not going to help you. Consequently, she's going to set it up on a different computer. And she is happy to be off OneDrive, but it didn't reach. It did not help reach the goal she was. At least not. It did clarify. That was the other thing, is that I think what she was really trying to do is to decide whether this was the computer to do it on, but she didn't give that job to me. She gave it to herself and then asked me to do do all these changes to see if it would work before I knew we were trying to make something work. So there we go. That's my OneDrive story. And at this point, I am happy to hear anyone else's problems or topics or news they would like to share. I've brought some news articles. We've just talked about one of them in the midst of Dave's Android information. And I would be happy to go on to some of these other articles. Something out. Question. It's help. You should be looking at my document of possible. I mentioned the Bill of Digital Rights. I always do. I think it would be a savior to some of this stuff that's happening to us right now. I think there's stuff that would not be happening to us right now had this been in place years. Never have gone down the path. We talked about Dave's SMS Messenger. I put a link to that. If you've got a Samsung and you're dealing with the same thing Dave is, there is a document out there by Samsung, and they do have contact Samsung customer support button at the bottom, which I would hope is helpful if you get yourself in a bind. As far as, oh, go ahead, Chester. I see your hand up. Oh, are you there? It looks like you just turned off your camera. Oh, there you go.
Sorry, I hit the wrong button.
No worries. What's up?
My speaker works, but my camera doesn't. Okay, I had a question regarding Apple Cloud, and I get a slightly more than $1 charge on my bank account every month, having to do with Apple Cloud
Or iCloud.
iCloud, and I have no need for iCloud, and however, $1 a month is not backbreaking, it's just irritable.
Well,
And
Apple has actually made it simple to find out what's going on. You should be able to cancel it if you decide that you don't need it. But like you just said, $1 a month isn't a lot. And one of the things that iCloud gets used for that I set up for people and recommend, not to pay for free. You get 5 gigabytes for free, but is the backup of your phone and the just the bare bones of your things like the settings for your applications, the list of applications that's installed. A lot of people still use only their contacts on their iPhone. They don't synchronize with your Google account or your Microsoft account, and they just use the contacts on them. And so if that's the case, then I have them sync their contacts to their iCloud account. Where it starts to need to pay for stuff is when you start syncing lots of like pictures, documents, and things of that nature. Mostly pictures and videos. And well, no, even music these days, you're either keeping it on your phone. You don't really sync music. Music is available through the Apple Music app. Subscribe to it, and you can choose to subscribe to it, download it into your phone, and that takes. But it doesn't really take up space towards your iCloud. If you're not in the music subscription, then you're managing your music yourself. That means that it's on your home computer and you're moving copies of it to your phone. Again, that doesn't get. So iCloud really ends up being unique, particular data for your situation. I generalize that because I never know what the situation is. Most of us, though, it would be photos and video. Backup of photos and videos, and then any documents that you created on your device, they would go into the iCloud. Where iCloud space really makes a lot of sense is when you have other Apple products in your life, specifically products like Computer. My own personal Macintosh computer is synced in iCloud space for backup purposes. I share that with my daughter who has a Mac Pro, and her hard drive is backed up. Documents. But if you're not doing that, oh, and let me say, you can do that with a Windows computer. Most people aren't. Well, most people are not taking advantage of iCloud on their Windows computer. The people that are have very specific needs that they're doing, like say they're using their phone for photos and they have a Windows user and they have their photos synchronizing over to their Windows computer. But it just that's just not the norm. It's most people in general have their photos on their phone. They're using their phone as their main personal computer. Let's face it, the phone is the personal computer. It's not the one that I'm sitting in front of. It's the one that's sitting in my pocket. And most people, what's that, Chester?
I don't do any of that.
Yeah, I know. But you and a lot of us here are from a different generation of this stuff. And the truth is that people are keeping it on their phone. They're seldom going to a computer. They're doing things like Facebook and WhatsApp from their phone. They're sharing those pictures in Messenger or in Facebook, WhatsApp.
I even turned the internet off of my phone because it was eating up battery capacity. But I don't do anything with my phone except phone calls.
Which is the last thing you should be doing on your phone.
We have 2 minutes left. 2 minutes, everyone.
2-minute warning. I will start up this next meet, so anybody that's interested can jump into it.
I'm going to switch over because I still have a question.
Okay, very good. It's sitting here waiting to let you in. We have 2 minutes. Actually have time to drop this link into our chat. In case you guys don't have it in, click on this chat room. Carol and Chester, still waiting for others to join.
We always
Welcome.
have to join on this one.
Yeah, this goes back to when we had calendar entries during COVID and so we've used the same codes forever, but at some point we ended up deleting the calendar entry for the second code. And if the calendar entry doesn't exist, say that you're going to be at the meeting and get pre-authorized. And then even that pre-authorized thing, it didn't work all the time. It's not something I had any control over. It was the way that Google would do things. Made a calendar event for a meeting, put people into it. It would invite them. They could accept, and they would be pre-authorized to open up. And it didn't work all the time. In fact, to this day, if I join with my personal account, I have to let myself into the first meeting. Because I mean, it says I'm authorized. I should just, but it never does. I always have to let myself in. So we reached a point, Cheryl, where I just stopped trying to make any of that work on this second meeting. If you don't know me, you're not getting in. Hey, and Richard's joining us in the second half of this. Welcome, Richard.
Down, Max, down.
Thank you.
Down.
Hello, Ms. Dahl.
Stay down.
Hello,
Stay
Ms.
down. You stay down. Unless you want to get up on your feet.
Oh, and the other meeting has shut down.
The next question I had on
Oh, hey, Chester, before we get too far away from your first question, I do know you have an iPhone, and that's one of the reasons you have the iCloud.
Here.
And if you go into settings at the top in the account,
Not there. Here.
you'll find the name of your account.
There you go. Good boy.
I'm going to mute you
boy.
because everybody's listening to you talk to Max. We're going If you, I don't know if you can see this, but if you go into your settings screen now, I've just revealed a whole bunch of personal information. The in that first grouping, there's one that says subscription. Oh, and I'm actually sending you to the wrong place. I'm sorry. In the second grouping, there's a thing that says iCloud, and it shows you on the first page how much you're using. And in that iCloud, it gives you under storage, it'll show you what size it is, and it will give you the ability to change storage plan. And you can cancel your subscription from that. I wanted to verify it for myself, but at the bottom of the edit subscription window, there is a red button, cancel your subscription. And so if you look at your storage, I would encourage you to look at your storage and look at what it's being used for, and then make the decision to cancel it because you understand that you don't need it for any of those. What's your second question, Chester?
Well, my second question, I was looking at your comment, and the amount of storage I'm using is 41 gigabytes, which is nothing.
Well,
But it doesn't show me where I can cancel.
it's nothing. I bet the $1 subscription is for 50 gigabytes. You're paying $1 a month to be able to back up that phone to the cloud, probably in its entirety. That whole 41 gigabytes is probably over in your iStorage. You should be able to see that from the managing storage to know for sure. But then if you go into the managing storage, change storage plan, and at the bottom of that, you'll find how to cancel it. It's just a button, and it'll have you jump through some hoops, but they're fairly easy to cancel. Subscribe to these. At least with these plans, there might be a 30-day requirement before it turns off, but it's not like trying to cancel it.
Okay, I'll look at that. The other thing is almost every day I get a message on my iPhone asking me that they're looking for me to post where I'm located. And I don't see any point in doing that.
So what you're getting is a message asking for you to share your location?
Yeah. And it's usually when I first pick the phone up, and as soon as you hit the home page, it goes away. It's not a message that's in the message system. It just pops up and then it goes away once you start using the phone.
That's interesting. If it's an Apple message, if it's a legitimate message, then what it would represent is some service in your phone requiring location permission. And you have your permission to share location turned off. Regardless, I think what the message is telling you is you're too private and too secure for whatever it wants to do.
You're right, because I've had such bad luck.
Yeah.
With
And I would also bet that whatever you typically use your phone for, Chester, it just doesn't matter, that message. Just they're trying to get you to turn on your location.
Right.
Whether it's legitimate or illegitimate, the goal is for you to flip that button. And if
ignore it.
Yeah, if you're able to use the phone the way you want to use the phone, then just ignore it. Carol, go ahead. What do you?
Yeah, Scott, from the last update on our iPhones, every time I open an app, it asks me to allow or not allow tracking.
Right.
And that's something new that's come up. And I notice that like every time I open my phone, I'm getting anytime.
You know what they call that, Cheryl?
An annoyance?
No, that's a nag screen.
Well, wait a second. I know the one that Cheryl's talking about, and it's been around for a while. But if something has happened like with your device, you may be having to answer these questions again. You may have
On-
forgotten that you've already answered these in the past. These are apps that you've had in your life for a number of years. You have not had to answer this question in a long time. But
Yeah,
what
and like what's happened is with the last update, they have turned off any answer that I gave them before, and now every time I open anything, it asks me if I want to track.
Yeah.
And then I have to think
The-
about, now, do I
no,
want
you don't.
track?
You don't ever
That's
want to. What this is this is Apple controlling the narrative of security and privacy. And
Okay.
they did this to their app store partners. They've done this, all these third-party developers. They basically said, we're going to ask every one of our customers if they want to share their information with you. And they can say no, and then you get to decide whether you're gonna work for them or not.
Okay, there's two things here. In allowing tracking, am I allowing access to information, or am I allowing access to location? Because
Yes.
sometimes I need location turned on. For example, when I'm on Google Maps and I want to try and find something and I want to type in, barbershop near me.
Well, it's good to recognize the distinction,
Okay.
because in your phone you have a number of different permissions. You have permission to use the microphone, permission to use the camera, permission to use the storage of the phone. These are three very easy to understand concepts of permission, but location is also on that list. And what you're describing with the maps is a location permission for the maps program. So you do want to have that on at the very least whenever you use the map, the map
Allow
app.
when using. So when they keep getting this question about tracking,
Now the
that's a
tracking
different
is
situation.
different. The tracking is a completely different system. Now, what had been going on for years was that the activities you do, this is what tracking means. Not where you are, but it is. Where you are is one piece of it. It's everything you're doing on this phone. It's the telemetrics of how this device is used. And because of the rules. Hey, Richard, I'm sorry. I think your speakers are coming back across your microphone. Hey, I'm just hearing myself come. I'm hearing myself come from your. If either turn them down or I'm going to mute your microphone. What they were allowing third parties to do because of terms of service of being in the App Store that you had agreed to, they had access to your telemetrics. Apple decided arbitrarily how much of that pie of your activities they were allowed at any given time. Apple had complete control of it. You had no knowledge of it unless you read deep into the terms of service of installing devices into your phone. You wouldn't even be aware that Apple has this agreement with the developers, share the activities you do on the phone. And that, while app is running, is very significant, because if you give it permission in general, that app in general can collect that data. So if
give me an example of metadata or whatever data you're talking about.
I'm not going to. I'm going to say anything you do. That's what we're talking about.
Like I walk.
Yes.
Like I
yes.
speak.
Yeah. Right. If you sit down, these devices, they are tracking all this. Your altitude. They're tracking the direction you're at. They're tracking your GPS, and they're doing all of these things as a convenience to you. That's what they're giving you. But what you're giving up is all that stuff is recorded in a big ball of data. And the question is, who's it available to? Now, in the end, you can't stop Apple from having it. You've bought an Apple device. Apple's got access to that ball of data. Now, what we're really talking about is who else gets access. And Apple, for years, divvied up that data to the developers that released apps in the store as part of their terms of service and their development agreement and your agreement to use Apple. And Apple arbitrarily would decide what data is safe to share with those developers and which ones are not. What was happening was an app like Uber would sit and run in your phone. You had given it permission to run all the time. And so it was looking at data from other applications. Uber Eats could see that you use the Pizza Hut app, and so it could start shooting you Pizza Hut advertisements whenever you were opening up the app, for the most innocent of examples. But essentially, these apps were able to share what you were doing, your data, in between themselves because of the way you would give it permission. Apple got in trouble for this kind of behavior, at least in the EU. And so as part marketing, part consumer protection regulations, Apple decided that every one of their developers is going to have to be allowed to track your information. And you should say no to that question every time it comes up, because the tracking question is asking if it's okay to share your other app's data with this app. That's what it's saying. Is it okay to share what Apple says is okay with this data? And it could be from any arbitrary app that you have in the. Does it help, or have I made it more complicated than it needs? You've got two levels. One is, does this app get to see all your data, which you don't want it to do? Don't want it to have that kind of freedom in your. Always want to. And then within the app, it needs access to those sensors of your device, possibly. I mean, if you're using a note-taking app, does it really need location data? This is the other side of this. A map app definitely needs location data. Does it need microphone access? Maybe camera access is a better example, because maybe you do talk to the map app. Maybe you say, "Take me home," or "Where's the closest Costco?" This is actually the next big thing in the map app, is that you don't ask for Costco. You ask, "Where is the closest Costco? Can you put it on my route?" Well, you can't do that without permissions to use the microphone. This is that toss-up of convenience versus security. Always go through. Is it more important, that convenience, or are you more concerned about your security? I'd say in a map app like Google Maps, it doesn't need access to my camera under most circumstances. That probably is a security problem. Why is it even trying to take pictures? What if
Well,
a bad actor got into the Maps app, and now they're able to use that camera because I gave the Maps app permission? I'm sorry, Richard, what were you going to say?
Well, I don't think that the choices are difficult, really. If you just, the default is to deny.
Yes, well, that's what I'm trying to emphasize.
And if you run into a functional problem, okay, so now I guess I got to go back. I guess it does need this or that limited permission to operate. But
it's almost like a moral compass that you're setting. It's like, there's this thing that I used to say to myself all the time: if it's a maybe, it's a no. Because
exactly.
if you need the answer right now, it's going to be a no. The maybe means I'll take time to think about it.
If you don't experience a functional problem, then you know that absolutely
you're fine.
None of those permissions were required for it to operate perfectly.
Yeah,
which I think is more common than anything else.
Well, not only that, if it is necessary, and I would argue necessity in some of the cases of these apps, I've definitely given permission to an app or something in the device that I could not justify, but the app was not going to run without that permission. And
I've seen that too.
And at that point, I have to make a moral decision. I have to decide whether it's worth it to let them, because they're already doing something that's above and beyond what I was expecting. And that's the bar that we've been setting by not paying attention. Is they're just hoping you're not paying attention. And they'll write the app. They'll ask for all permission. The nebulous they that exists out there. But the they is actually, it's the contrast to the you. You very much understand. Personal you totally understand. The they is everything else affecting you. And developers, they'll write software that asks for all the permissions because human nature is to ask for everything and take whatever you can get. And they do the exact same thing with software. They just ask for everything because who knows what they're going to do later. You remember the thermostat that Google put out that later we found out had a microphone in it? They didn't know what they were going to use the microphone for, but they stuck it in there thinking later they might use it for something. They didn't disclose it to anybody. They never disclosed whether hackers were able to take advantage of it. I mean, your thermostat could have been listening to all your conversations. Some hacker could, not even officially, not even like an Alexa, not even like an Echo Dot, but in terms of a service that should never have been allowed, but is possible because of permission settings and hardware you didn't even know existed. I'm a big in favor of, if it's a maybe, it's a no. If I don't know exactly what we're talking about, it's a no. If what I'm trying to do is not going to work because of my common sense, then I need to reevaluate why I'm trying to do it. I don't know if that helps with. I think the clarity of what you're describing, Cheryl, is the fact that there are two different things, and I think this concept has moved to Android. I haven't used Android devices, my daily driver, for a long time, but I think actually, Rich, you're using an Android as driver, aren't you? You've got devices, no?
No.
Yeah,
well, I have a device, the very old device.
Okay.
But I don't know.
I think the modern devices are doing the same kind of thing. I think they're asking if you want to share your data with other devices, this other device. What am I saying? With the app that's in question. You want to share your general device information with this app that's asking. I think that is going on in the more modern versions of it.
What do you get that on install?
Yeah, when you install an app and you start it up for the first time, I believe that's what's going on in it.
I wonder how that's handled then in the pre-installed. You see the distinction I'm making?
Well,
what happens when I buy the phone at the little store and it has pre-installed apps? I wonder how they handle the default on that, I guess.
Yeah, it's going to be the manufacturer in the end. I mean, that's what we've always seen. There's going to be stuff that you can install and stuff you can't install, and it's all based on manufacturer agreements.
Have that control over the pre-installed. Like, okay, so let's say it comes pre-installed with this app, and then I say, well, I'd like to depermission that app. I don't want my note-taking app to be able to use my camera.
Right. Well, and to Apple's credit, they have backed away from all of this stuff, this sharing information. Now they've got your data. They'll use it. They'll use it for their advertising system. They'll use it to push products to you. But what they're stopping is these third parties from having access. And when they first started this, within the first month, they saw like a 92% drop in people allowing third parties to track them. because they had the option. And it was great marketing for Apple. And so they've gone farther that direction. You remember you used to get a device and there were a bunch of apps like Marin's sort of referring to, where the app, you're stuck using the Apple note-taking app. You were stuck using the Apple web browser. And Apple has now made it in the last few modern versions of the operating system. They've made it to you can change those. You can remove those pre-installed applications. They are at the same level as third-party applications. You can pick and choose what you're going to give out. Where are we? Cheryl, did I get your question? Did that help? I hope.
Yes, I know the difference between tracking and location.
Well, tracking for function, like location, permissions on the, and tracking for gathering data. That tracking message, them to be allowed to gather your from other apps and from the Apple system, not necessarily just from their application. That's what they. Well, I'm happy to go on to any news articles that I've got with us. Take recommendations. We are over an hour at this point. And it's just Mom and Cheryl at this point, and myself. Chester has left. Richard has left. If Mom, you're muted if you're talking to me. Yeah.
I said your papa's leaving.
Oh, okay. Well, I think we're at the. Did you have any recommendations you wanted to add, Cheryl? Do you have anything?
Well, I'm trying to think. Oh, yes. Bill and I are watching Horrendous History.
Horrendous History? Is that a YouTube channel?
No.
Where do you
It's on
find
the
that?
History Channel. It's on the History Channel, and it's our good old Fonzie, Henry Winkler, and he's going, like, we've watched 3 episodes so far, and like it was ridiculous toys that used to be allowed for children, like the history. Hazardous. I'm sorry, it's not horrendous, it's hazardous.
Hazard. Well, gee, and
Hazardous.
here I was so proud of myself for spelling horrendous correct.
No, hazardous history. And, the one was about stunts that were used to be allowed, and toys. And, the other one was medical, things that they used to do for medicine, and, transplanting with milk, and, blood transfusions with milk. And it was just, it's funny. It's unbelievable, but we know it all really did exist. So it's an interesting series. Yeah.
Added that to our show list.
On the History Channel. And Bill's watching World War II with Tom Hanks, I think it is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that was mentioned last week.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just like 3 episodes have been released so far. So it's coming weekly now.
He's been working on that for a long time.
Tom Hanks is so involved in the topic. I bet it's
He's had so many movies that he's made around World War II.
Yeah. I know we watched The Landman. I don't know if we ever talked to you guys about
Man. Yeah, that's been a recommendation at times.
Oh,
I never
wow.
got into the second season. I think I watched the first 3 episodes and then got distracted with other stuff.
Oh, we watched both seasons, and we're wondering if another one's going to come out. It drove us crazy sometimes just because of some of the characters, but we did make it through and found it interesting.
Yeah, I think like what I mean, I didn't mean to lose interest, but when I did, the internet was full of comments like, is Chat GPT writing these scripts? What happened to these characters? And so I never got myself back into it.
Okay.
Did you want to add something, Mom?
Well, we really liked it, but we like crazy shows like that. So we had a good time with that Landsman, and we are too looking forward to another one. And I'm sure they're making one because it's been too popular. It's
Yeah.
just that Sheridan, I can't remember his first name, the guy who's been writing it is
Yeah.
writing like for 8 other shows. He can't
But
keep up.
He's going to end up his own studio at some point.
Well, he is, because like the Madison, I
Oh, is that him too?
that's Taylor Shop, and I find that his characters are usually really, really good. And I guess Landman, by the time you get to the end of the second season, I can handle the wife. But at first I just thought, come on. And like, like nobody can be this sex craved. And this is just not a real, like this is not how people talk and stuff. But
Maybe Cheryl, you and I are out of touch. Maybe we
Well,
don't know.
I guess maybe, but then she kind of came around and she grew on me or something, or she toned something down, and she had more than just a one shot pony, is what I'm trying to say. It's like reading a book, and the character never develops, never changes or anything, that she did. So I was appreciative of that. So yeah.
Well, if you've looked at my document, I meant to mention this last week. It's on last week's. I've been watching this show called From.
FROM?
FROM. It's an MGM production. You can watch it on Prime. It is a horror anthology show with rooted with the same characters. It reminds me of Lost. If you were a fan of Lost before it got bad, the last season, this is a very similar kind of. And maybe this is why I haven't brought it up before, just because Lost has been done, and there isn't. This is good. I've really enjoyed it, but there's nothing new about it. It starts out with a family going from one point to another and end up with a tree in the road, and when they back off to go back to the highway, they end up in a loop. Discover a community that is like locked in time and space. It's developed by people that keep getting trapped in this area. Now, this area is full of ghosts. There's some secrets around it, and you can die very quickly by being out at night. And so there's a lot of character development for survival and exploration, and there's a big mystery that's going on that you're following. But I would be lying. I'm on the 3rd season. They've just released their 4th season, and it's obvious to me I'm going to have a Lost experience at the end, because there is no way they're going to satisfy anyone that's watching this show. There's just too much. There's too many threads hanging out there. It's been entertaining. I'm enjoying it enough to mention it now, but I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be dissatisfied by the time I'm pretty sure if this 4th season isn't the one, the 5th season is going to be the season that they should have stopped at.
Okay.
It's got some great characters in it. It's got a guy that's acting as a sheriff of their community. They've got a diner in the community that plays a role in it. But it's all done in very gray tones. They almost noir colors, and it's all just setting this app. And they're having to grow their own food. They've luckily been able to find some goats, and actually you learn throughout the series that this has been going on for a long time. Like, they're multi-generational people that have been able to survive. but not a lot. Like one, what I'm thinking. and people die very quickly. And so one of the more recent episodes had a bus get caught. So a whole busload, a whole cat. It was like more people came to the island.
The other one that I did watch was Down Cemetery Road. You guys had mentioned it before, and I was on Stremio and I watched the first couple of little ones, and then I finished the whole season when I got home. And I've seen ads that Down Cemetery Road is going to have another season with the two women investigating, like as private investigators.
Oh, all right.
That they're going to work together. Yeah.
This is
that was full of characters. What's her name? Emma Thompson
and Pierce Bronson, right? Emma Thompson, Down Cemetery Road. Oh, wait a second. What am I thinking? I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the Club. I'm thinking of Pierce Bronson, and they were an old.
Oh,
folks,
the Mystery Club.
The Mystery
That was
Club.
a Murder Mystery Club one. Well, I only watched the very first season of that one, and I thought that it was pretty quirky and stuff. So I didn't even try the second season, but maybe I'll have to go back and try it. But
I just had to Google. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
Down
this was
Cemetery
good.
Road was it was very interesting. You know, the whole concept of
Well, her character is great. I mean, like she expresses her age, and she's still really tough, and she's someone not to mess with. And I didn't realize she was going to end up being the principal character of the show when I first started it.
No, it's quite good. And like the whole thing on the first season was that the government was using these veterans and experimenting on them with different medications and stuff, and it was turning them very violent. And it was a lot of espionage and a lot of different things in it. And I can't remember who the male actor in it was. Was it not Dennis Quaid? It was
where Darren Boyd is it.
Okay.
And I'm looking at it. I remember the handler. Funny. This was the one, like they had police investigating people killing themselves. Is that like that?
No.
My gosh, we've watched way too much.
No, it was they were looking for a child that an explosion happened, and then
That's right. An explosion happened in a neighborhood, and a child lost her family, something like that.
And it turned out that the family wasn't really her family, and it was really quite deep.
Yeah.
And I just found the scenery and the whole activities, and I enjoyed it. So.
Well, it'd be interesting if there was another season of that.
Yeah, I just saw an ad for it. But sometimes I saw an ad for Frankie and Grace and Frankie, another season of Grace and Frankie. And then I never found it. It said coming soon to Netflix and all this. And I kept looking it up. And I think it was like a fake. I don't think that there was another season coming.
AI overview says that it included Facebook. There is a Brit now posting New Beginning.
Yeah, I kept seeing that one. 2026, and there was a new one coming out, and I kept watching, and I even went in Netflix to try and see if it would announce when it was on, and I couldn't find it anywhere, and I didn't know if it was because I was in a different place. Yeah,
Look
that
at this. The AI overview says there's no official Grace and Frankie New Beginnings movie officially run. Any circulating rumors, poster trailers online claiming are entirely hoaxes by AI generated. Of course, I'm reading AI generated content. So And take that with a grain of salt.
A
It
liar
could-
calling a liar a liar.
Right, exactly. It's like, normally this thing feeds me a lot of bullshit, but it tells me the other bullshit is bullshit.
Are we in a loop or what? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we are in quite a loop, as you put it right now, because we have the AI models have been trained on all the data. I mean, it's hard to even imagine at this point. When it was easier to imagine, when I first got on the internet, I was still in university, the last few years of my university career, and you could buy a book for the internet. Like they could put all the significant, like the same way you would go to Yahoo or you go to Google to look up stuff. They had enough significant websites to fill like a phone book. And you could go to a book and look up links to go type into your web browser. There was a time when you could imagine capturing all the data of the internet because it's so small.
We had a book called IMDb. But it was a like a newsprint catalog, about that thick, and it was for the year 20 or whatever it was, 2005. International data movie base, whatever, and we would use it. Bill used it in his classroom and stuff like that, but it was on paper. It was a textbook.
Well, and now what the experts say is that these AI models have been trained on every piece of creative, whatever data that we have available publicly. Everything that's out there is in their brain. Artificial.
So they started by scanning the Encyclopedia Britannica, but now they've gone on to. Yeah.
Well, and now what's happening is it's kind of feeding itself. If you're into sci-fi, there's that concept of a clone of a clone of a clone will fall apart because eventually you start losing, it starts degrading. We've always thought of it like the photocopy thing. Take a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. Of course, when we hit digitally, then you could digitally copy something absolutely. And that was just fodder because I forgot what my train was going with this thought. What was the point I was getting at?
Something about us being in a loop.
Being in a loop, exactly. Because what's happening with AI is generating content that's getting put out there on the internet that's getting sucked up by AI.
I was hoping you weren't going to go to World War III.
No.
I was really hoping that.
No.
No.
But our AI answers are getting worse.
Yeah.
And there's an argument to be said that it's because they're now being trained on stuff that isn't AI. I mean, that is AI. Like the data that was thought to have been generated by humans isn't. It was generated by AI. And the worst part about it is what AI has taught us is what is generated by AI is a lowest common denominator of knowledge. The lowest, it is the averaging of everything statistically. It's almost the same kind of model that Google uses for ranking pages. Like so many people find this thing to be the thing, that's what we're going to put first. That works for page ranking, but when you're like writing are you an exceptional writer on average? You're an average writer, and the majority of us are. So you go to an AI and you ask for it to create something, it is doing that averaging of writing, taking all its knowledge of all the writing that it has read across the world, and it's coming to a lowest common denominator of what's considered acceptable based on what humans created. So we're getting like the best mediocre content that's available.
Well, I think about it in the medical research field. People when you're doing studies or anything, you look at previous experiments and different things that have been published. You look at all these published results, and if you only take from each of them, like what they found out,
Yeah.
and we're never going to go we're never going to go any deeper into finding things or discovering things if we only go as far as everything that's been generated by somebody else, you know. So
Well,
The average of that.
yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, so someone pointed out to me that we can only an IQ test can only be as smart as the smartest person that made the IQ test. It cannot be any smarter than that. So it doesn't matter what score somebody gets. It is limited by the test taker's ability to ask the question. AI is very similar.
It's all this, you know, as educators, we often were asked by parents or whatever, well, you know, did they pass? Well, you know, 50% is 50%. If you only learn 50% of your basic facts in math, you're not going anywhere because you got to have 100%. You have to have mastery in some things before you can go on. So if we're only ever going to just stay at average in knowledge,
or worse, it's taking all of that, creating a whole nother set. And you know what? Back away from this, because what we're doing is the same thing they're all doing. We're generalizing AI as a whole, and that's the worst thing. That's what's happened. We should never have done that. These should have always been techniques or tools, and these techniques work really good for some tools, and they're really lousy for other tools. You brought up an example like medical data. If I needed to research some medical problem as a doctor, I would want all these encyclopedic knowledge inside an AI, and I would want nothing else, just that knowledge. And then I could feel comfortable asking questions of it and getting charts back to me and getting recommendations based on symptoms I might give it. This really shows a lot of coding. Coding is another one where it's so very rigidly documented by a team professional, intelligent people that, and I've told you guys in the past, now for me, I used to go out and I would look for code that, like, this is an example of a sort, an example of saving something, it's an example of putting something out on a screen. And we all use that. These are fundamentals. They're always there. I don't know, I'm grasping for other analogies, but basically, these are set in stone ideas. They are not wishy-washy concepts. So if you don't get wishy-washy stuff in there, this is a really good application. Well, and the classic example we always talk about is spelling. Spelling is very rigid. We have plenty of data on spelling, and we have plenty of data in each language of what words go after words. The predictability of a sentence isn't that hard to sort out. There's nothing there that tells that experience what that sentence. That's where it all breaks down. That's where everybody's trying to generalize AI as an intelligence when we are nowhere near that.
No.
That is all just pumping up stock values when they talk about it. And what we really got is we've got some technologies that make really good tools in the right context. Rest is just fodder that they're playing around with. Sometimes we're all apes that are excited by something shiny. It's like, oh wow, I couldn't have made Santa playing hard rock music on stage with Metallica, but the AI was able to do it. Like, those are really impressive feats that just, I think I've told you guys before, I've made such an extensive prompt to an AI before. It wrote the whole website with a one button to press. It was just there. None of my creativity, none of the things that I would have put into it. But within moments, there was a complete website in front of me based on what I requested. Was it a great website? No, it wasn't. But these are things that are shiny, and you're just like, wow, look at what it could, look at the possibilities.
Well, and I think that two news reports, or like the business news last night, were two different AI companies going onto the stock exchange. Like our Toronto Stock Exchange has one. The Canadian Stock Exchange, and it was a huge IOP, whatever they call those things. Anyway,
IPO, initial
very,
public
very,
offering.
yeah, it was very, very thing. And then the other thing that's happening in Alberta, we've got a terrible situation happening. But anyways, during one of our advertisements by our government, that we don't, they say they're not for separation, but they do all these things that look like they're for separation. Like it's a real mess. She has this ad, and in it she talks about how many more jobs we have in Alberta, that Canada is getting more unemployment, Alberta's got jobs for people, and we're doing all this oil, and we're building AI data centers. This is not good news to a lot of people, and she just keeps talking as how positive this is, and she's got this whole group of people behind her. It's just so sad.
Cheryl, you're reminding me that there are some viral videos going around right now of U.S. politicians that they're working the midterm elections, and they're preaching AI, and they're getting booed and shouted down in their town halls. Yeah.
But our television, like we watch the news, and 3 times this ad will come up in a 1-hour newscast, 3 times the advertisement. And we are paying for it because she's in power. Like, it's awful. It's just so frustrating.
I find it really frustrating because there is a lot of merit to the technology that we have right now. And so much of this hype is so dangerous for people to understand it or even respect it or find a use for it. So it has caused people to go completely negative against it.
Right.
It didn't have to be this way, but capitalism. The potential for earnings on ideas is so high that we just need to share ideas around.
Yeah, make money where we can. Yeah.
I'm gonna let you guys go. We're at the end of this hour. You guys have a wonderful time this week, and I'll be back Tuesday online again from the Walkabout Town Bed and Breakfast in Alaska, where you, as San Carlos Computer Club members, can get a 10% discount on any room you'd like to have, as long as I have the date available.
Sounds good.
All right.
Yes.
Until next Tuesday, tech on.
Bye, guys.
All right, there we are. Did it again. Scott Stemson from International Computer Solutions. You can reach me, Scott, at Internet. If you like what we're doing, you can go to our website. It really is just a bunch of blog posts pointing to our YouTube channel in each one of these videos. You can find us that way. You can find us on what used to be called Twitter, but I don't really tweet there anymore. You can find us on Blue Sky. I will answer. Don't push out anything more than a meeting, which you are all welcome to. Anybody that's interested in participating, get the meet code. You can find it on the website. If you're interested in just watching, well, you're here on YouTube. Till next Tuesday, you all have a great day. Be careful with your tech, and